Pro Skater. Now everyone thinks they can skate like Tony. Now available on Nintendo 64 and Game Boy Color, rated E for everyone.
Woo! Tony Hawk Pro Skater. Remember that? Way back in 1999? Where you could do crazy tricks as Police Officer Dick off of ramps and collect cassette tapes. Yeah, those were the days. And pretty much 8 games later, you were still doing the same thing in Tony Hawk games. And it was kind of sad news last week that Neversoft was going to be merged into Infinity Ward, and Activision was retiring the name of the studio. So I decided it would be a good idea this week to look back on some of the other Neversoft games that people might have forgotten about and show that it weren't just all about Tony Hawk, and that they did have a couple unique ideas and some cool franchises before being put to a slow death on the Guitar Hero series. So for a trip down memory lane, go ahead and read this week's op-ed article. And speaking of games that are dying a death of having too many sequels, let's talk about Assassin's Creed. There's some recent news about the Assassin's Creed movie being helmed up by Michael Fassbender. He's not going to be beating any slaves in this movie. It's rumored that he's either going to be playing Ezio or Altair. And the movie's going through a current script rewrite. So don't expect it to start filming anytime soon, but it seems the Assassin's Creed movie is still very much a thing. And speaking of Assassin's Creed, there's some new rumors coming out from the creator of that series. You might remember Patrice Désilets for a pretty long career at Ubisoft, having created both the Prince of Persia Sands of Time series and Assassin's Creed. And he left Ubisoft right around the time of Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, not on good terms, the work on a new game at THQ, and in some weird twist of fate, THQ went bankrupt, and Ubisoft bought out the game, and Désilets quit again. Why does this all relate to what's going on now? Part of his contract with Ubisoft was a non-compete clause in his contract that's set to expire, and he can actually talk about what his next game he's been working on is. And it just happens to be time that it's going to be revealed at the end of this month with E3. And so this was all hinted at on Twitter. And there's a few other guys on Twitter that are throwing out some hints about what they're going to be showing at E3, like Ed Boon hinting both at a Mortal Kombat 10 and an Injustice Gods Among Us 2. And one other rumor by Epic Games' Mark Rain that's already been shown. They are bringing back Unreal Tournament and Unreal Tournament 4, which is going to be this totally free, open to all modders type of game. That is a throwback to the classic and a great thing for the modding community. 3 types of basic rumors are this type of year. These are the most reliable ones coming from the creators themselves, and here are the next 2 types of rumors. So rumor type number 2 is the type of rumor where there's some leaked screenshots, but the companies making the games aren't willing to say anything because this is probably going to be a big reveal at E3. So some leaks coming out this week, most particularly interesting, were from a Sony PlayStation 4 exclusive game called Project Beast, which looks to be being made by the original Dark Souls team. If you don't know, Dark Souls 2 was actually headed by a slightly different team. So this whole time, Miyazaki, the original creator of Demon Souls and Dark Souls, has been working on some next-gen, probably Souls game. The game looks a little bit different. Obviously, the prototype doesn't have Souls in the name. The main character is walking around with a shotgun, but the art style and information leaked about the game seems like it's probably a spiritual successor to the PlayStation exclusive Demon's Souls, which Dark Souls was the spiritual successor to that game. And then along with that, there was another trademark filed this week for a mysterious game called Pokken Fighters, or Pokken Tournament. Pokken is supposedly a Pokemon fighting game, and there's some rumors that it might actually be being made by Namco, which kind of makes sense. Pokemon, Tekken, Pokken, and there's been a quick little video reveal at a Pokemon game show that some people are speculating might be the game. So E3, expect Sony PlayStation 4 exclusive Souls game, and the Nintendo Wii U might be getting an awesome new Pokemon fighting game. And rumor number 3 type is the least reliable rumor. It's just a guy posting a tweet on Twitter about, hey, this next game is gonna have this. So there's a quick little story up this week about Halo 5 possibly being an open world game and what that would mean for the series. You can sort of imagine that could work with the Halo formula, considering it was one of the earlier first-person shooters that actually had vehicles in large environments in the first place. Not much more information besides a tweet, so take it for what it is. And besides being the time of year that E3 rumors are starting to spread, it's also time for game developers to be releasing their fiscal year results from last year. The new fiscal year starts at the end of March, so they've had some time to crunch some numbers and show how well they did. One of those companies is Capcom, who's actually up 8.6% in sales over last year, despite having more than a few flops this year with games like Lost Planet 3, Remember Me, and DMC. But the more interesting thing was their forecast for the fiscal year that's just started now and will end in March 2015. They're expected to be pretty low, actually even lower than the year before when Resident Evil 6 came out. So we can sort of speculate what Capcom's up to. We know they're going through a major restructuring and trying to develop more games internally, and I'm personally a little hopeful that we might see some lesser known Capcom series like maybe Rival Schools or Darkstalkers, which aren't proven to be really high selling games, get some form of re-release or sequel. And one of the surprise hit-selling games from that Capcom fiscal report was Dead Rising 3, which has already sold well over 1 million copies and done pretty well for Capcom. Another Xbox One exclusive, Sunset Overdrive, from Insomniac Games, who you'll probably remember as the developers of Ratchet and Clank and the Resistance games on Sony platforms. It kind of feels a lot like Dead Rising. You're surrounded not by zombies, but a group of monsters that have been transformed by some sort of evil energy drink. And it's the style sort of has a mix with Ratchet and Clank, where you have these crazy weapons, and then there's this unique traversal system where you're very mobile, and it kind of feels like Jet Set Radio. If you haven't seen the trailer already, it's embedded in the story. This seems to be a pretty cool exclusive for Microsoft, and certainly different from Halo and Gears of War and what we've come to expect on the Xbox platform. And while we won't be able to get our hands on Sunset Overdrive until this fall, there's a few decent games coming out this month, notably Ubisoft's much delayed Watch Dogs. And what I'm personally looking forward to is Supergiant Games Transistor. So check out this sizzle reel for what else you can expect to be spending your money on this month. And now that you're officially broke from making all those pre-orders, head on over to gamersunite.com. There you'll find all the latest news, previews, and LAN events in your local area, and it won't cost you a damn thing. And I'll see you guys next week.